نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أما بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Inshallah, I just got a message from the brothers that I'm actually batting a bit too slow, so I have to make a move on with the batting and so on. So there's certain things we're going to skip, and we're going to try to go on to the main part of the course, because as I was explaining right at the beginning, that the main part of this course is the family aspect and the rights of the husband and the wife. So the next section is very quickly on page 15 about forced marriages. So again, I'm sure everybody knows the gist about forced marriages, that is something which is not allowed in Islam, something which is haram in Islam. To force a girl or even a boy to get them married without their consent, without their will. So this is something which is not allowed in Islam. Again, there's a couple of hadiths there which quite clearly says that forcing someone to marry without their consent or against their will is not allowed in Islam. Now if you move on to the next page, page 16 talks about arranged marriages. So there's a difference. Forced marriages is where you kind of force someone to marry. You don't give your son or your daughter the option. Arranged marriage is where basically the father looks for someone, finds someone for his daughter, and then he says to his daughter, look, it's up to you now to decide whether you want to marry or not. So now if the daughter says, okay, that's fine, I want to marry, then fair enough. But if she doesn't, then the father can't enforce it upon her. So that's about arranged marriages. So that is actually a teaching of Islam where father looks for someone for his daughter. That's allowed, that is permissible. Next topic, women are allowed to propose for themselves. Again, there's a hadith with regards to that, dowry. So again, I mentioned the requirements of the dowry. It's all there in detail, so inshallah we could have a look at it there in our own time. Now, I'd like to request whether we could move on to page 17, rights of husband and wives. Okay. Now, this is, as I was saying right at the beginning of the lesson or the course early on in the morning, that this is the main part of our course. This is why this course is unique, is that we're going to be touching or emphasizing more on the rights, so that husband and wife, children, everyone who's involved, they can live together in a happy way. Now, if we have a look at the course book, which is on page 17, rights of husband and wife, the rights of the wife which are hers alone are the following. So in other words, these are what we call rights of the wife. Yeah? Those rights which the wife exclusively has, no one can take these rights away from her. Now what are they? I've then split it up into two. One is rights of the wives which are financial rights, and on the next page, in the middle we have non-financial rights, are those rights which the wife has over her husband, but it's got nothing to do with finance. But let's make a start on the first side, the first section. Financial rights the wife has. Now the first right I mentioned there, which the wife has over the husband, is the dowry and the mahar. So whatever the husband gives her as a dowry, whether it's like what the husband has given her now, or what the husband has promised to give her in the future. What I mean by promised in the future, i.e. a dowry as a deferred payment. Like in other words, the wife may have placed a condition that, look, if the marriage was to break down, then I can't just survive on £100 or £200 you gave me as dowry. I need to be financially stable. So basically, I'll take £200 dowry now, but if the marriage was to end up in a divorce, you need to give me, say, half of the house, or you need to give me a house, or you need to give me £20,000 or £30,000, so I could then look after myself and also the children. So whatever it is, whether it's the dowry which was given at that moment in time, or whether it's deferred payment of the dowry, it's her financial right. In other words, she's basically entitled to it. Yeah? No one, the husband can't take it off her, i.e. the girl's father can't take it off her. The girl's father can't say, well, look, daughter, I looked after you for all those years and I gave you the jehez. Jehez, like when they get married and then you give the sofa and the bedroom furnitures and so on, the fridges and so on. So I've given you that, but you need to sort out the dowry. No, dowry is exclusively the wife's right. So when the husband pays the dowry, it's hers, it's for her to keep. Also, the second right, number 2, moving on to the next one, the second right which the wife has over the husband is spending. So in other words, in Arabic, and or those of you who don't know a bit of Arabic, we call it in Arabic nafaqa, spending, maintenance in other words. So basically, in other words, what we're trying to say is that it's the right of the wife that the husband financially supports her and provides for her. Now this one I need to explain a bit more in detail. You can make some notes on this one. When I say financially the husband is responsible, it means in terms of accommodation, in terms of clothing, in terms of food, or even as one of the examples, bills, rents. All that has to be provided by the husband. Yep, this is important because sometimes, I'll give you some scenarios later, but sometimes obviously this is where wife and husband disagree. Remember, Islamically speaking, it's the right of a wife that as soon as she gets married, it's now the husband's responsibility to look after her. Yep. Whether it means the rent of the house, mortgage of the house, whether it means the food, the shopping, the bill, water bill, gas bill, whatever bill it is, it's the husband has to provide for it. Okay? So that is the right of the wife. The wife, basically, if she's working, whatever she earns, it's exclusively her money. Okay, just keep that in mind. So whatever she works, I'll mention some scenarios in a second here, but whatever she earns, so just an example, she's working, whatever she earns, even though she may be earning more than the husband, whatever she earns is exclusively, it's hers. Yeah? Husband can't force the wife that, look, you need to pay for the bills as well. Whatever she earns, it's hers. Now this then takes me on to a scenario I want to mention here, is that obviously you have a situation where husband and wife, they are both working, and the husband, whatever he's earning, is very little. He's just basically adding on with the wife's wages, they just about both of them survive. So now the question here is that in such a situation where husband is working, wife is working, again, what happens when it comes to the bills? Who pays for it? Who pays for the rent? Who pays for the mortgage? Now again, even in that situation, technically it's still the husband. He has to pay for it. Now if the wife now in that situation, out of her own will, says to the husband that, you know what, I'll sort you out, I'll provide for you as well, then that's okay. But again, technically speaking, it's the husband's right. So even though he's earning less than his wife, even though what he is earning is very, very little, but again, technically speaking, it's the husband's right to pay for the bill, to pay for the rent, to pay for the mortgage, whatever household expenses, whether to say the boiler's not working and he needs a new boiler, so the price for that, the husband has to pay. Obviously, if the wife out of her own will wants to chip in and wants to pay, then that would be allowed and that would be permissible. But again, technically speaking, it's the husband's right to do that. I'll flip the coin and I'll give you another scenario where nowadays you'll have what you call house husbands, where basically the husband doesn't work. Yeah. No, like obviously, yeah, some of them don't work out of laziness, but yes, some of them basically, they've kind of said to the wives that, look, I look after the kids. You hear some stories like that. Basically, the husband will say, I look after the kids, and then you work. Yep. It's actually more of a, a non-Muslim thing, but it's like we find in our Muslim community as well, that, the woman has the career and the husband stays at home. So it's like even in some Muslim families, you have similar situations where the husband will stay at home, he'll look after the kids. In other words, he'll pick the kids up, he'll drop the kids to school and pick them up, he'll do everything. And it's the wife who is working. Yeah, it's the wife who is working because I think somebody asked this question early on, that it could be so that the wife's got a really good, well-paid job, and what the husband earns is actually very little. And basically, it doesn't actually financially make sense because what the husband earns, during that time when there's no one at home, they have to pay for the child's minder or the nanny, someone said, so the babysitter. So actually when you look at it, the father or the husband thinks, you know what, I might as well stay at home. It's much cheaper for me not to work, because if I do work, whatever I earn, it goes straight to the babysitter or it goes straight to the nanny. So I might as well not work and look after the kids myself. And let my wife work because she earns quite a bit of money. So now in that situation, again, who pays for the rent? Who pays for the bills? Because I just said that technically it's the husband's right. Now in that situation, if, say for example, the husband and wife have mutually agreed that, okay, the husband's going to be looking after the children and the wife's going to be working. So in that situation, it will be the wife's responsibility to pay for the bills. Yep. If it's been mutually agreed that husband's going to stay at home, he's going to look after the kids, he's going to pick up the kids, he's going to feed them, clothe them, bathe them, he'll be like a mother in a way. So in that situation, it will be the wife's responsibility to pay for the bills, rent, everything. Yep. However, if the husband is not working out of laziness, if he's not working out of laziness, this scenario which I mentioned it was like mutually agreed that, okay, I'll stay at home, look after the kids, you work. If it wasn't mutually agreed, but husband out of laziness doesn't want to work, then again, technically speaking, whatever the wife earns, it's hers. Yeah? The husband then will have to look for some ways of paying off the bills, the rent at home and so on. Okay? So what I've explained to you, brothers and sisters upstairs, is the rights financially from an Islamic point of view. Now I just mentioned one point here, is that remember when it comes to husband and wife relationship, even though the Sharia says do this, do that, but it is actually quite flexible. What I mean by that is, it's basically what the husband and wife mutually agree. What the husband and wife mutually agree, that would be acted upon, and we don't look at the Sharia law and the Sharia rule. Yeah? What I've told you is basically what the Sharia says. However, if the husband and wife mutually agree and they say, okay, we go half on the bills because the wife is working and the wife's happy about it, that's okay. Or as I gave the example that the husband's going to stay at home and the wife's going to be working and she's going to pay for the bills, husband's okay with it, the wife's okay with it, that's also allowed as well. And to tell you, when it comes to disputes and so on between husband and wife, it's always best that they try to mutually agree amongst themselves. Yeah? And actually it's a command of Hazrat Umar ibn Anhu that he would actually say to couples who are quarreling, who are disputing, do you know what, you two sort it out. Why? Why is that so important? It's important because if they don't sort it out and it comes to a scholar or a mufti, remember mufti or a scholar, when he gives a fatwa, he doesn't look at husband and wife, he just looks at what is mentioned in the books. And sometimes what is mentioned in the books could be a bit harsh for some. So it's far more better husband and wife to sort it out themselves rather than them coming to the scholar or the mufti. So even in that situation about the bills and so on, yeah, it's the husband's right. So if a wife was to come to a scholar or an alim, he'll give that same answer. You know what, yeah, the husband should pay for the bills and the rent. But as you can imagine that if the husband's not working or he's earning less, when he hears that from a scholar or an alim that he has to pay for the bills and the rent, inside him, his anger is going to brew. Yeah, he's going to think that, look, I'm staying at home, yeah, I'm earning less. Why doesn't my wife understand the situation? She's working, she should kind of chip in. So what I'm trying to say is that it's better in that situation to kind of mutually agree rather than going to a scholar or a mufti, because the scholar mufti doesn't look at the books and going to say, well, you have to pay for the bills. And if the scholar or the mufti gives such an opinion, then you then have to act upon it, and then you then think to yourself, you know what, this is unfair here. I'm earning less, she's earning quite a lot, why isn't she chipping in? It's going to brew your anger, it's going to make you more upset and angry, which may lead you to eventually, sometimes you could get angry, to divorce her or to give her talaq. So basically, in a nutshell, this second point under financial rights about spending, yeah, it is the right of the husband and the wife, of the husband, in particular. But if it's mutually agreed that the wife's going to chip in and the wife's going to pay for the bills as well, then that's acceptable and that is allowed. And also for the next point as well, accommodation, again the same rule also applies there as well, that it's the husband's responsibility to provide a shelter, something which is decent for his wife. Obviously we look at it on page 21 about can a wife demand separate accommodation from the in-laws and so on. Inshallah, we'll touch on it there. Now the next part, page 18, non-financial rights. So we looked at financial rights the wife has over the husband. There are two main ones. That is on maintenance and dowry. The next is basically non-financial rights. So I'm just giving some examples, like some rights which the wife has over the husband. So the first one is good behavior with the wife. Okay, so it's a right of the wife that her husband treats her nicely and her husband treats her in a good way. In a good way. Now, as I was explaining before, that look, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had so many wives. He got married 11 times, and he married different types of women. It wasn't just like young women he married or just old women. He married different types of women. He married young women, young girls like Aisha. He married virgin girls, virgin women like Aisha. He married widows. He married divorcees. He married Hazrat Safiya bin Anha, who was from a Jewish tribe before. He married so many different types of women. Why? He married so many different types of women to show us, the Muslims, how we should behave with different people. So Rasulullah gave the example, okay, with Aisha, who's young, who's a virgin, this is how you behave with her. Someone old, this is how you behave with her. Someone who's a divorcee before, this is how you behave with her. Someone who's a widow, this is how you behave with her. Rasulullah married so many women to tell us how to behave with different women. So Rasulullah managed akhlaq is so amazing, and that's why I request brothers to read the seerah. Seerah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Two things I recommend brothers and sisters to read. Obviously the Sahih al-Bukhari, the Kitab al-Nikah section I mentioned earlier, and also number two, the seerah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. How Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was with his wives in particular that section. So this is like a right the wife has, that husband treats her properly. Now this is mainly for brothers. Unfortunately, we can never ever grasp or understand the sacrifices our wives done for us. Now you may think, what sacrifice she's done? Just imagine that you've grown up in one household, in one family for 20 years, for 25 years, for 30 years. Then afterwards, she gives up everything. Yep. Some of the sisters in particular who do get married, some of them had a really good job. Yeah, they were like, had a high position at a very good company. They gave all that up to move towns, cities, even some places, countries, to come and settle and get married to you. Yep. Look at their parents. They had, a daughter. They could have kept that daughter at home to serve the parents, but no, they realized that no, when she's reached the age of 25, 30, she needs to now move on. So they even sacrificed their daughter for you. Okay? For you, not for anybody else, just for you. So the least she can, she deserves, just the least we're talking about, is at least you treat her properly. At least you address her with nice words, don't call her bad names, don't rebuke her for little issues. In particular, names as well. That when you call her, obviously call her by name, but address her nicely. Not aggressively, if her name's Fatima, not aggressively, like Fatima, come here, or something like that. Aggressive, not aggressively, nicely, do it in a nice way. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, whenever he would call out to people, he would always call out to people in a nice way. Any kind of nicknames, say for example, people had, if he was defaming that person, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam never used that name to call that person. Why? Because he was ridiculing him, he was mocking him. So similarly, because we hear some stories where, husbands, they call their wives in very rude ways, very aggressive ways, or just say for example, the wife may have had a nickname from before, and they call her with a nickname. Or just say if she's a bit overweight, they call her, fatty or something like that, or these kind of words. So something like that, yeah, you shouldn't be, just use some decency when you're calling her. Okay, so something like that, or good behavior, nice manners, akhlaq and so on. So these kind of things you should call your wife with. So this is again the sunnah, the beauty of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If we move on to the next, this is also a right of the wife, by the way, to lend a hand to your wife in the household chores, in the household tasks. I could see some smiles on the face of the brother, so I'm assuming that we're probably a bit guilty on this one, yeah? I think smiling, not smiling because we really do it, we're smiling because we're guilty. So, obviously household chores as well. Now look at the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, especially the second hadith I mentioned there, that once Sayyidah Aisha bin Anha was asked about how was the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam at home. So look, what did she reply? She replied by saying, he was an ordinary man. Ordinary man meaning he used to sew his own garments. Subhanallah. He would milk the goat. Yeah, milk the goat. And also he would serve himself. Yeah, serve himself. Now, don't get the wrong idea from this particular hadith that also at the same time, I don't want sisters upstairs to think, oh, we don't have to serve our husbands. Yeah? Because, I'm not sure whether I mentioned it, but I think it's coming up later, that the same way it's not farz or obligatory for her to serve her in-laws, but when it comes to husband, she should serve him. Yeah? There are hadiths about the wife serving the husband. There's one hadith, I think it's of Sahih Muslim, where it talks about Hazrat Fatima radiallahu anha. So it's mentioned that every day she would grind the wheat, making into barley and so on, to the extent that her hands were hurting. So Hazrat Ali radiallahu anhu, her husband, said to her, oh, why don't you go to Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and ask for a slave girl? He asked for a slave girl, a bandi, a khadima, to come to our house, and the khadima and the slave girl will do all the household chores and you can relax. So the hadith says of Sahih Muslim that she went to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. She asked for a slave girl. What did Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam say? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said no, but instead taught her something which is known as the Tasbih Fatimi. Either 33 times Subhanallah, 33 times Alhamdulillah, and 34 times Allahu Akbar after each Salah. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam told her, no, do the Tasbih Fatimi instead, and the pain which you have in your hands by grinding the wheat, that will inshallah go away. So from this hadith itself we can derive that if it was zulm or oppression for a wife to serve her husband, if that was considered sinful or oppression, then Rasulullah would have put a stop to that. Rasulullah would have given Hazrat Fatima, bearing in mind Hazrat Fatima was the most beloved, Rasulullah loved Hazrat Fatima so much. So if this was something wrong, Rasulullah said, what would he have done? He would have given her a slave girl. He would have told Hazrat Ali, look, why are you putting my daughter through oppression for by serving you? But he didn't. Instead, Rasulullah told her to continue, and instead taught her tasbih Fatimi to get rid of the pain she was experiencing in her hands. So what we can understand is that husbands should kind of lend a hand to their wives when it comes to household chores, but at the same time, sisters upstairs should not think that, we don't have to do any household chores at all, or we can't, or we're not, or it's not compulsory for us to serve our husbands. No, we should serve our husbands. And obviously, as mentioned, the hadith of Sunan al-Tirmidhi, that if a Muslim wife, if she passes away and she was doing the faraiz, like praying salah, giving zakat, fasting, and what does the hadith say of Sunan al-Tirmidhi? She passes away and her husband is pleased with her, she will enter Jannah and paradise from whichever door she wants. Okay? So what we can understand from this hadith is that wives should also try their best to make their husbands happy and to get their pleasure, and that means obviously helping them out in the household chores. But obviously it doesn't mean at the same time that husbands are totally free from that particular duty. They should also help their wives out in the household chores as well. Another point here, end of page 18, beginning of page 19. This is also a very important right, a right of a wife over the husband, is that the husband should not be away from his wife too long. Like, you shouldn't be too much away from your wife. Now, why is that right? Because we're going to look at it later. The wife has a right for intimacy. So now, if the husband is going away from home, like he's always visiting, he's always going Pakistan, 4 or 5 months, a year, 6 months a year, and he's leaving his wife behind, in particular the wife is young, then this is not something good. Why? Because obviously we understand, I mentioned this before as well, that look, if you are hardly at home and you're not spending, a night with her at all, most time you're at the mosque, or even though you may be doing some religious activities, but if you are not at home, then what happens is that, as I was explaining before, that she also will then start having unlawful thoughts, lust and desires for other men. So to counteract that and to stop and to eradicate that, it's very important that husbands here, they spend time with their wives. Now, unfortunately, this is how shaitan works. The very famous hadith, I think of Sahih Muslim, could be from Sahih Bukhari as well, that is mentioned that every night shaitan has got a throne. He sits on the throne, and this throne is on a river. Then he calls all his devils, all the people who are working for him, he calls them. And he says to them, okay, what have you guys done today? What fitna have you caused? So one of the devils will say that, oh yeah, we caused this man to do this, we caused this man to do that, we caused this woman to do this, we caused this woman to do that. So shaitan will say, ma sanata, you haven't done nothing, you've done nothing. Then there will be another devil who will say to shaitan, oh, today I managed to separate between a husband and a wife. So shaitan will get so happy, Iblis we're talking about, he'll get so happy, and he'll make that shaitan sit next to him on his throne. He'll be so happy, give him a gold medal or something like that. Why? Because what did that devil do? He managed to separate a husband and wife. Now, the reason I mention this hadith is that when it comes to this point, sometimes husband, they think, oh, I'm in a mosque, so I'm not like doing something wrong. I'm in the mosque, I'm just like participating in ta'aleem or in lectures, or I'm doing other kind of work outside. I'm talking about religious work. So sometimes husbands think that, oh, that's brilliant. It doesn't matter what happens at home. But actually what husbands should realize is that sometimes shaitan kind of plays with you, and he'll make you think that actually you spending time in mosque, that is more better than not spending time with your wives. Yeah? However, as I just explained, that is a right of the wife that you spend time with them. So don't let shaitan fool you to think, oh, I'm in the mosque, I'm not doing anything, I'm not like in clubs or anything, I'm in the mosque, I'm just reading Quran. No, what the shaitan do is that he'll make you read Quran, he'll make you stay in the mosque, but in that way, he wants to cause you to separate from your wife. Yes, so that's why it's very important that spending time with wives, children as well. Yes, spending time with our children. Even something simple like, giving them a hand in their homework even. Yeah, or just like spending time with them, that is also a right of children, of parents, yeah? So this is something very important, that spending time with family, children, we want to obviously give them the right tarbiyah. Now if that means that, we're doing other things but we're hardly giving any time to our children wife, then actually what will end up happening is that our children and wife, they will turn up the opposite of what we wanted. Yeah, like we're in the mosque here, we're doing good deeds, we're doing good actions, we're trying to help other brothers and other youngsters, but if we don't look after our own family, they will turn out to be total rebel against us. They'll rebel against us, they'll be disobedient against us. So it's very important that we kind of manage the two. Obviously we do the work outside for youngsters and for the masajid, but also at the same time we should not forget our own children and our own family. Okay, the next point on page 19, another right the wife has over the husband is that the husband does not punish or does not beat his wife up. Yeah, so in other words, he's not allowed to abuse her, whether it's verbally, whether it's physically. Husband is not allowed to do any of these kind of things to their wives. Now, I was explaining before that unfortunately many people have the wrong meaning of what is a man. I gave an example before. I want to repeat that example again. What is obviously sometimes people want to open their trousers to show that they are a man. Then there are some other people, they want to show that they are a man by beating up their wives. They think that when they beat their wives up, they demonstrate to everyone that I'm a man. Now, to tell the truth, beating up your wife and certainly not opening your trousers here, that is not a sign of being a man. Yeah, if you want to be a man, then seriously, go outside and go to the battlefield if you truly are a man. Yeah, but if you are a man, and if you are saying that you're a man, then being a man is obviously following the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and by being kind to your wife. That is actually being a man. Yeah, being a man is not hitting your wife. Being a man is not like abusing her or having her under your control or having her under your wraps. That's not being a man. Yeah? Being a man is that obviously you are affectionate to her, you are kind to her, you respect her, and obviously you don't abuse her, you don't beat her up. That is what we call being a man. Does that make sense? The sunnah of Rasulullah, remember, Rasulullah came at a time to basically take people out of being animals into insan, into humans. Because as all of you know, when Prophet ﷺ came, people were burying their own daughters alive. And they thought that to be manly. They thought that to be a sign of being a man. Rasulullah said that no, being a man is that, yeah, you be a man in the battlefield. You be a man where there's a need for you to be a man. But being a man is not like at home you beat up your wives, you beat up your daughters, you beat up your sisters, and then think, oh, this is a sign of, being a man, this is a sign of greatness. So I mentioned a few hadiths here that Islam doesn't allow hitting, doesn't allow beating up women. Yeah, it doesn't allow that at all. Also, any other form of abuse, any other form of, say for example, emotional kind of abuse, that is not allowed. So whether it's like verbal abuse, whether you're swearing at her, or whether it's physical abuse, that is totally not allowed, that is totally not permissible. Sometimes what happens is that certain husbands, unfortunately, I think you call them control freaks. They have this kind of like, they want everything under control. So the same way that, they want everything to run according to what they want. So similarly, in a mosque or in an organization, if they see somebody else doing something, they think, oh, I've lost my authority. Similarly, at home, sometimes husbands who are not stable, they have this kind of control freak nature. In other words, they want their wife to be under their control. And when they see that their wives just like blinking an eye at them, they lose their rag and they start hitting them, start abusing them and so on. Now, being a control freak, actually, brothers, is not something good. Yeah? And the way to stop yourself from being that, you just remind yourself all the time that whatever happens in this world, it's not because of you, it's because of Allah. The only being who controls the world is Allah. Yeah? You can't do anything about it. Remember, what you do in life is because of the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So don't, develop this kind of nature of having, I want everything under to be controlled. I want everything the way I want it. Yeah, because remember, brothers and also sisters, well, that it can never happen. Only Allah, whatever happens in this world is because of Allah's will and Allah's Mashiach. It's not because of you. So don't always be too aggressive and too control freak on your wife that she can't do anything without your permission. She can't lift her foot up, without your permission. Don't be like that. Yeah, that's not how Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was when he was with his wife. He was kind to them, he was respectful to them, he was affectionate to them. He allowed them, what they wanted to do as long as it was within the boundaries of the Sharia. Obviously, keep that in mind. As long as within the boundaries of Sharia, you should allow your wife to do things. If it means that they get involved in the local mosques, the local masajids, in doing some kind of functions, whatever, but as long as they're doing it within the sphere of Islam, then there's nothing wrong with it. They don't have to don't be a control freak that everything they do, it has to be because of your permission or because of your will. And this is where sometimes the punishment side comes or the beating side comes, because when they see that their wives are not listening to them, on small issues they lose their rag, they get angry, and they start abusing them and hitting them. Okay, let's move on to the next part of page 19. The husband's rights over his wife. So in other words, now we're going to look at what rights the husband has over his wife. What we read thus far is being rights the wife has. Now we're going to look at what rights the husband has. So the first thing I mentioned there is obeying the husband. So basically the wife should obey and listen to her husband. Okay? Now if you move on to page 20, he explains in which things should we listen and obey. The wife should listen and obey her husband in. So it's mentioned in recommended or permissible acts as long as it does not violate her own rights and does not cause undue harm or hardship upon her. What I mean by that is that if the husband tells the wife to do something, as long as it is permissible, obviously that's important, because if the husband is telling his wife, oh, you can't pray salah, or if the husband is telling his wife, you can't fast in the month of Ramadan, wife won't listen to the husband. Yeah, why? Because Allah's obedience is greater than the obedience of the husband. So wife doesn't listen. Similarly, if the husband is telling his wife to do something which is going to cause her undue harm or hardship. Yep. So now from here, I'll give you an example of what I mean here. Good example will be, and we'll touch on it later on as well, is the intimacy side. Now, the husband, he'll always use this hadith when it comes to the intimacy side, that there's a very famous hadith of Sahih Muslim, also Sahih Bukhari as well, that if a husband calls his wife to bed and she says no, then the hadith says that the angels curse her. until the morning, hatta tusbiha, until the morning. So husbands, they always use this hadith, and they always say, look, you need to come, otherwise, this hadith is going to apply, you're going to be under Allah's curse. Now, the reason I'm mentioning is that, the wife should obviously try to fulfill this right of the husband, but if it means that it's going to cause her undue harm or pain. Now, what I mean by undue harm or pain, something like she may be on her periods, or something, or she's really, really ill. She's really, really sick, bimar, and she physically can't have intercourse with him. Physically, she can't. She's too ill. She's too sick. Now, in that situation, it's wrong for the husband to use that hadith against her. And obviously, in that situation, if the wife says, you know what, I can't do this one, then she would not be considered to be sinful. Why? Because what the husband is telling her to do is something going to cause her too much harm and too much hardship. So what I'm trying to say is that, the wife should listen to the husband as long as it's got to do something permissible, something she can do, something which is not going to be too harmful for her. But where it's going to be difficult, where it's going to be harmful, then obviously there's no obedience in that. And also then went on to mention on the next paragraph, this is also quite important as well, because obviously, again, husbands, similar with wives as well, they only hear that part of the course which is important, or that part which kind of applies to them. They'll listen to that, the other 6 hours of talks, they won't listen to that. So again, sometimes husbands will use this part and will say that, look, wife has to obey me, listen to me. But I've also mentioned that it doesn't mean that, he puts restrictions or barriers on his wife. Like what I mean by that is, let's say the wife is sick and ill and she needs to go to the doctors. So the husband can't say to the wife, look, you have to obey me, so therefore I don't allow you to go to the doctors. Or just say the wife's really, really ill and sick that she could pass out and then she wants to go to the hospital. Husband says, no, you can't go to the hospital, you need my permission. So little things like that, husband is not allowed to, abuse the rights, I should say. So obviously obedience to husband is important, but obviously if it means that it's going to cause problems to the wife, if it means that, look, the wife's ill and she really, really needs to see the doctor or go to the hospital, and the husband is basically saying no, even in those two situations, she doesn't have to listen to the husband and she will be allowed to go. Okay? So obviously that's the first condition. The first right the husband has is in terms of the wife has to listen and obey him. He then goes to explain that another right which the husband has is that she should not allow anyone to come and visit whom the husband dislikes. Just for example, husband's gone work and he said to his wife, look, I don't want such and such a person to come and visit. Now such and such a person could be a strange man, which understandable, you don't want a strange man to come and visit your wife whilst you are at work or whilst you've gone somewhere. Or it could also apply to a mahram of the wife. So just say, for example, the husband says to the wife that, look, you know what, I don't want your brother to come. Because, he's stirring between us, he's causing some problems. I don't want your brother to come. Now that is a right which a husband has, and if that is the case, the wife will not be allowed to let her brother come into the house. Okay? Now I'm just going to elaborate on this point here, point C. You can just write the following rules down about visiting. Visiting rights, visitation rights in other words. Now when it comes to parents, visitation rights meaning like a wife wants to visit her parents. So how often, in other words, can she visit her parents? So again, Islamically the rule is once a week. Okay? So the wife's got a right, Islamically, to visit her parents once a week. Again, that's her right. Now, as already explained before, if the just say if the parents, the wife's parents live in another town, another city, the husband can't make it every single week, but he agrees, okay, every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks, every 4 weeks, and the wife's happy with it, then that's fine. But again, looking at it from a technical point of view, Islamic point of view, it's once a week she has a right to visit her parents. Now, when it comes to other siblings, like brothers, sisters, uncles, aunties, so on and so forth, then strictly speaking, the right she has is once a year. Yeah? So when it comes to siblings like brothers, so she wants to visit a brother, then she can visit him, but it's once a year. And parents, it's once a week. Okay? So again, this is like the right she has. Now obviously, if say for example, the husband wants to take her every 4 weeks or wants to take her every 2 months to visit the uncle or the auntie or brothers, husband's happy with that, then that's okay. But looking at it from strictly speaking, from a strictly point of view, then it's the once a year when it comes to siblings. Now obviously, regarding this particular rule here, as I said that when it comes to the house, because it's something which is owned by the husband, and if he doesn't want certain members of the family to come, so if it's a brother, then because she can visit him once a year, and he doesn't want him to come, then obviously he's allowed to do that. But when it comes to, like, say for example, parents, say if the parents want to visit the daughter, but the daughter, or the husband's house where the daughter is living, so again, she's got a right, like, once a week to allow her parents in, yeah, even without the permission of the husband. So that's her right she has, to allow the parents in once a week. Yeah, so to visit and also to allow the parents in once a week, she's allowed that right. So if it's more than that, the husband's got a right to say no, but anything less than that, i.e. once a week, the wife has a right. Okay? So that's the rule when it comes to admitting anyone other than the husband's permission. Obviously, next rule I kind of mentioned, not going out of the house without the husband's permission. Again, this comes under obedience to the husband, and also the wife serving a husband. Again, this has been mentioned before. Okay, the middle part of page 20 is some rules with regards to in-laws. Okay, in-laws. Now, what I've just mentioned there is that if the wife is going to be staying with the husband's father or mother, or even with other members of the husband's family, like brother-in-law, the husband's sister, i.e. the sister-in-law of the wife. Now there are certain rules which everyone has to abide by. Yeah? We've mentioned many rules with regards to husband and wives and so on. But when it comes to in-laws, there are certain rules which in-laws, okay, have to abide by as well. What are the in-laws? Mother-in-law has to abide by, father-in-law has to abide by, even brother-in-laws have to abide by. Now some brother-in-law rules are mentioned before in terms of obviously parda, hijab, they should try to maintain. But also there are certain rules with regards for mother-in-laws and for father-in-laws. Now some rules are mentioned there under paragraph number 2, such as the same way a husband is not allowed to call his wife with offensive words. Similarly, the mother-in-law or the father-in-law are not allowed to call their daughter-in-law with offensive words as well. Actually, it's far more important that they don't call her with offensive words. Look, the husband's not allowed to do it, but somebody may justify and say, well, if the husband is kind of using it, it's not, somebody could justify it. Islamically they can't, but somebody could say, well, well, he's the husband, he could do that if he wants. Islamically no one can justify it, but somebody may look at it that way. But when you look at it through in-laws way, no in-law has any kind of, like a mother-in-law doesn't have, say, any right over her daughter-in-law. Yeah? Only the husband has the right over his wife, but strictly speaking, Islamically speaking, the mother-in-law does not have any rights over the daughter-in-law. In other words, that she can't say to daughter-in-law, basically force her to do things which, say, for example, she has no authority over her. Okay, so keep that in mind. So that's this needs to be clarified because everybody needs to know their roles here. So the role of the husband and wife I already explained, but this is mainly for the elder brothers, elder satis of the congregation, and also for elder sisters upstairs who may be a mother-in-law or any other brothers here who are a father-in-law, that you need to make sure that when it comes to your daughter-in-law, you're not treating them as like your own property in a way. You're not treating them like a bandi or a slave girl, like a khadima. Unfortunately, what happens is in some families, they treat their daughter-in-law like a khadima. They treat them like a slave girl. So now, the same way you hear stories of slave girls, you wake up early in the morning to do the household chores and so on. Sometimes certain families, they kind of demand that of their slave girl. Of their daughter-in-law. But they're treating like a slave girl, if that makes sense. So they demanded that, yeah, she needs to wake up early in the morning, she needs to go to sleep at set time, she needs to do this, she needs to do that, she needs to make this much amount of curry. Some of them, yeah, they actually have a rota. Like, she needs to do this, she needs to do that. It's like she's got a full list to do. And it's like she's a caretaker, that she's like, when they do a particular role or a duty, they put a tick. Like, when they clean the toilets, they write on the balcony, at this time it was clean. Or it was like, cleaned at this time. So some families treat their daughter-in-laws like that. That is totally wrong. Yeah, strictly speaking, her responsibility is the husband. Okay? Now, and that's why we see sometimes cases where obviously daughter-in-laws then don't want to live with the mother-in-laws because they are subjected to that kind of like abuse and that kind of like, well, I won't say torture, but that kind of like being bossed around from one place to another, which obviously they don't want. Now, so that's one thing to remember here, that parents, father-in-law, mothers, they don't have any kind of rights over their daughter-in-law. Which then takes me on to the next point this is where obviously the next part comes on page 21. Is she required to serve her in-laws? So in other words, her wife, is she Islamically required to basically cook for her mother-in-law, to cook for her father-in-law, to cook for her brother-in-laws, i.e. the husband's brothers, and to say if he's got younger sisters, to cook for them, to look after them. Now I think I mentioned there that Islamically she isn't. In other words, her main responsibility is obedience to her husband. Yep. But, and this is the key thing here. However, if she, out of her own will, does it, or if it's something which is going to please the husband. I think I mentioned this on the second paragraph, or the second paragraph there, that Islamically it's not compulsory for her. But if she is doing it, why? Because she knows that if I do this, I look after my mother-in-law, my husband's mother, my husband's father, it's going to make my husband happy. It's going to make my husband pleased. And as I already touched on before, that wives should try their best to make their husbands happy. Why? Because of that hadith, that they will enter Jannah from whichever door and gate they want. So if her intention is like, okay, I'm not doing it out of force, but I'm doing it why to basically make my husband happy, that's why I'm going to do a bit more extra effort, I'm going to clean, I'm going to cook, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and she does it out of her own will. And also it's mentioned in a hadith as well in Sunan Abu Dawood, that a sign of a believer is that she or he looks after and respects the elders. Yuwakkir kabirana. That whoever does not look after or respect our elders, falaysa minna, he is not from us. So if a wife, obviously not made compulsory upon her, but out of her own will, she looks after the mother-in-law, the brother-in-laws, cooks for them, looks after them, cleans and everything, and the intention is to please her husband, and also the intention is that she wants to respect the elders, then obviously that is something which is recommended, and that is something which is praiseworthy. But again, technically, you can't enforce it on her. So just say, for example, if a father-in-law was to come and complain and say, well, my daughter doesn't cook for me, then he's got basically no legs to stand on. He can't stand on it. He's got no evidence to do that. But obviously, if the daughter-in-law out of her own will wants to do it, then that's praiseworthy. Yeah. And by the way, just looking after elders in general, that is praiseworthy anyway. It's like more advice to you, like the sisters upstairs, that they may be thinking, well, do I really need to look after my mother-in-law? Come on, do I really need to? Now, I'm just encouraging them that, yes, you should try to. Because he mentioned another hadith of Sunan al-Tirmidhi, that Rasulullah ﷺ has said that if you look after an old person, so whether a man looks after an old man, or a woman looks after an old woman, or anyone older than her, subhanAllah, Rasulullah ﷺ has said that when you become old, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will appoint someone to look after you. Yep. So we sometimes see a lot of Muslims going to care homes. Why does that happen? Why do Muslims go into care homes for? Yeah, reason why is that when they were growing up, they didn't tell their children about the importance of looking after elders. Their children saw that, when my father and mother were growing up, they sent their parents to their care homes. So actually, this is like a good thing, that alright, when we grow up, we'll send our parents to the care homes as well. So what this hadith of Tirmidhi is telling us, that you look after elders, inshallah there will be someone looking after you as well. Yep. So obviously this is going back to sisters again upstairs, that alright, fair enough, it's not mandatory, it's not obligatory that you need to cook and clean for your mother-in-law, but again a sincere request to the sisters that out of cooperation for your husband, with the intention to make him happy, make him pleased, and also think of it for your own benefit as well. Think of it for your own benefit, as mentioned in the hadith of Tirmidhi, that if you do look after old people, if you do look after the elders, then inshallah when you grow up, there will be someone looking after you as well. Yeah, because we don't know what's going to happen when we old, yeah? We don't know what state Allah is going to put into us. At this moment in time, we're healthy and we think we could do everything by ourselves. But when we reach 50, 60, we don't know whether we're going to be bedridden, whether we're going to be urinating in our beds, whether we will be passing stool in our beds. Only Allah knows best. Now imagine here that you are in that situation where you're at home, you've urinated in your bed, there's no one there to look after you. Yeah? Imagine like you sleeping on that mattress, on that duvet, where your feces are, where your urine is, and no one is looking after you or caring for you. So alhamdulillah, if you were growing up and you looked after someone, then hopefully, inshallah, because remember, Allah never betrays His promise. Inna Allah la yukhlifu al-mi'ad. Allah never ever goes against His word. So if Allah says in the hadith that He will find someone to look after you, then He will look after you, inshallah ta'ala. So just keep this in mind. Obviously, this is more advice for sisters. As I said, because there's no right or wrong. The Islamic laws are there that look, yeah, you don't have to, but it's good for matter of cooperation, for more to please your husband, and obviously more importantly for your own benefit, that you look after and you serve the in-laws. The next rule, just very quickly before we break up for Maghrib inshallah, is can a wife demand for a separate accommodation? So again, it's like another issue which crops up, that wife, they say, oh look, I want to have a separate house and a separate, everything. I don't want to be with the in-laws. So as you can see from the paragraph there, quoting Imam Haskafi's Durr Mukhtar, that as long as the husband has given his wife a separate quarter or a separate room in a large house. So just say like in our homes, and we look at it, you may be thinking, no, our home's too small. No, actually compared to the homes of Sahabas, our home is like a mansion. So even though it's got 3-bedroom terrace house, but compared to what the Sahabas are, this is like we're living in a mansion actually. So now if there is like a decent sized house where it could be 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom, but it's decent size, and you provide your wife with a separate room. Now what I mean by separate room doesn't mean that you can't share with her. Obviously you can share with her, but you provide a separate room where basically her belongings are there, and it's her separate. What I mean separate room, in other words, that it's her room. No one else can go into that room. She's got the keys to that room. Basically, all the belongings there, anything which is of any importance and any value, she keeps it there. Then, as you can see from page 21, last paragraph, that as long as the husband provides her with a separate room, a bathroom, again, it doesn't have to be separate bathroom, as long as, say, for example, she's sharing with someone, but there's a bathroom which is there, and also a kitchen, but again, there's nothing wrong if she's sharing with other family members, but there's a kitchen there where she can cook her food, whether for the in-laws or whether for herself. As long as the husband provides her with these 3 things, then he has fulfilled his right of accommodation. Sukna, we call it in Arabic. He's fulfilled that. Okay? So what I'm trying to say in a nutshell is that, because sometimes sisters, they get the wrong mean, they think they need to have a separate house. It's not necessary for her to have a separate house. As long as the husband's providing her with a room and accommodation, decent sized room, a kitchen, even though she may be sharing with somebody else, that's okay. She doesn't need to have her own separate kitchen. As long as there's a kitchen there and a bathroom there for her basic needs, then that's okay. And the husband has fulfilled his rights of accommodation in that particular situation.
Maybe 5 minutes. I think it would be a good idea to wrap up.
Okay.
We have 5 minutes if you want to take another question.
Inshallah, I'll take some question and answers. There's 1 or 2 pages left. Inshallah, we'll have a quick look at it after Maghrib, and then that'll give us half an hour or so to look at further Q&A. Any questions, brothers and sisters? Okay, I'll just make. Okay, just one question here is a sister asked from upstairs, I think probably in one of the earlier sessions. How important is it to look at the behavior of a potential spouse's siblings? For instance, my brother doesn't want me to get to know a suitor because his siblings are not practicing. So basically she's asking that, do you just look at the person, or should you also at the same time look at the siblings as well? So the answer to that will be, actually, yes, it is important that you do look at, obviously not like be too over the top when it comes to looking at the suitor's siblings, but actually it is important that you do. Because sometimes by looking at the siblings, you can get a picture of the family. You can get a picture of the boy, or you can get the picture of the girl. So just say, for example, if the families, the brothers in particular are known to be like, bad people, and so on and so forth, then even though the guy may be saying that, no, I'm not like my brother, and it could be so that he may not be like his brothers, but at the very least there will be some effect of them in him. So obviously, the girl then should think about, whether I should go ahead with similarly vice versa, that the girl is saying that she's all practiced and so on, but you look at all the sisters and they're not practicing, they're doing haram, they're involved in drugs, they're involved in unlawful things, wrong things, then again, yeah, you should actually look at that and see, obviously, if the sisters are acting like that, then obviously it may have an effect on her as well. So obviously, and this, as I explained before, can only be derived out when you meet her, inshallah, then you could then detect whether she's a good person at heart or not. But yes, you should also look at siblings of others as well. Another question by one sister. If a parent does not give consent for a marriage, but the child still goes ahead with that marriage, if the parents die unhappy regarding that decision, what would be said about it? So in other words, as I was explaining before, that you should be very careful when you decide to now, you don't agree with your parents' decision, but you went ahead with it and got married in private, and your parents are displeased. So I think the sister was asking that, okay, if the parents now pass away and they're still displeased with him, so what will happen to him? So obviously the answer is simple, that they basically left this work and they were displeased with you. So what you need to do now is just basically ask for repentance, tawbah, for the shortcomings you committed to your parents, and just basically take it from there. But the answer will be yes, they will still be displeased with you, and it will be considered that they are unhappy with you when they passed away. Shall I just leave it there for... Shall we take the remaining questions during the Q&A and after Maghrib as well?